Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome to the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, how you doing? Welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a ton of stories, not including the one I was just looking at about cicadas, which, by the way, first time in a long time, like 10 years since cicadas came around. So if you were in the Northeast United States, then get ready for it. But to everyone else, hey, welcome into the program. We have a ton of stories, everything from policy to new products to very, very strange articles. This one coming out of Australia, where we'll be talking about sex consent app and what it can mean, how it's trying to be used. In all, just seems like a very bad idea. You know, something that is very personal and very, I don't know. It's very personal. Moving on to an app that is used for anything like that just seems very strange. So everyone, sit back, relax. We have that for you. ComputerAmerica.com is where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows. You can find it there as well as show notes, podcast, and video archives. So right there on the top of the Computer America banner, you can catch all those. So with that being said, I think we'll go ahead. Find us on social media. Give us a like, give us a follow. Follow us on Twitch, all that good stuff. And yeah, why don't we go ahead and get started with today's show? And like I said before, computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Let's do it. So everyone, okay, so I think we're going to save that Australian one for a little bit. Let's talk about some updates. And in particular, this one was pretty big news when it happened. A particularly ham-fisted way to handle this whole thing happened when a Twitter hacker gained access through backdoors to every high-profile Twitter account, and really, I'm sure everyone's Twitter account, but namely, he used the ones from Kim Kardashian, Elon Musk, Kanye West, Bill Gates, Barack Obama. All these were, of course, victims of his attack. And they said that this gentleman, he was 17 years old when he co-coordinated the scam, and he would spend 3 years in prison as part of a plea deal in a Florida court filing. And of course, they said that he's already served about 230 days because this happened, about 230 days ago. And now 18, but sentenced as a youthful offender, he may be able to serve some of the sentence at a boot camp. There you go, which is, pretty common. Anything happening, any kind of criminal case that happens when you're under 18. Of course, when you turn 18, you get the chance to serve that in different ways. So this is not uncommon and can happen for a lot of reasons. Now, they said that he will be banned from using computers without permission and supervision from law enforcement. So, as fun as as much fun as this guy had, he is going to now, for the foreseeable future, at least for a number of years, every time he wants to use a computer for any reason, he is going to have to ask his contact with law enforcement, and then of course his logs, I'm sure, all of his messages and anything like that will be highly supervised while he is using that computer. Horrible way to live. Essentially, it's like your parents looking over your shoulder constantly, except they have the ability to throw you in prison for saying the wrong thing or going to the wrong site. Now, for those who don't recall, he chose some of the biggest names out there with the most followers and of course the most successful accounts that you can find. He took them and said, essentially, which is a very common scam going around, especially using Elon Musk as an example, saying, we're giving back to our community. We're going to send us $1 Bitcoin or $1,000 in Bitcoin, and for every $1,000 that you send us, we will send back 2,000. And, it's obviously, I think a lot of people would see through that. If you're entering some kind of giveaway and of course you're encouraging giving back to the community, why the heck would you send them money so that they could send you money? It makes no sense in any form of kind of charity giveaway, anything like that. But the few people who do fall for it, they said that, and by the way, about $117,000 worth of cryptocurrency was collected through the scam. Makes you wonder who is smart enough to have cryptocurrency and then stupid enough to send it away like that. It blows my mind. But they said that the money had been handed to the authorities to be returned to the victims, the lawyers say. And they have an example here of this image showing Apple, the official Apple account and the official Uber account doing the exact same thing. We're giving away money, send us money, we'll give you back even more than you sent us. Now, it said that it was alleged that Clark had imitated a member of the Twitter staff to gain access to the company's networks and worked with 2 other hackers to complete the heist. The other 2, they have a gentleman who's 22 of Orlando and 19 of, I've never even heard of that place, have been charged with federal crimes, and the family have declined to comment, and the Home Office said it does not comment on extradition requests. There you go. So overall, this guy was 17 years old, getting into a lot of trouble. As I recall from the initial story about this, he was like living in Tampa, had his own condo filled with fancy things from other scams that he had pulled before he was 18 years old. He was really living the high life. And he, this was just another one of the attacks. This one was just too big though, targeting every single Twitter account out there. It was just too big, and it definitely came back to bite him in the wrong way. So, yep, he pled guilty. He might be able to serve some time in boot camp, and he might be out of prison sometime soon. But for the remainder of his, for at least the next couple of years, computer using is going to be extremely out of his reach. There you go. Story number 1. Story number 2. So many to pick from. All right, this one will be really quick. According to The Verge, check this one out. Walmart will have PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X's. Yes, the latest in gaming hardware will be restocked today. And oh yeah, by the way, update, they're sold out. Didn't take long. So let's see, and this whole thing was updated updated 3:45, and I'm sure this was published at 12:15. So you had about 3 hours. And I'm sure, again, that's just the times that these are published. whenever things like this, high profile restockings like this happen on heavily sold out items, I'm sure that, the website was crashing. People were losing the items in their cart. It was probably a scramble for those 3 hours, and those who got it were lucky to get it. So, yeah, definitely good luck with that. So, and obviously this has to do with another story that we're going to do right after this one, but obviously, March 18th, only for a couple of hours, they were able to restock. And these things, depending on what you bought, anything from $300, $400, $500 for the different options. So, yeah, unfortunately, completely sold out at Walmart. They're promising some back, in another couple of hours, but who's to say if that's actually going to happen? Keep your eyes out. I know it's a struggle. If you really want one, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And the reason why keeping things like the Xbox Series X and more in stock is so troublesome is because of this story right here, where we actually tap into Samsung. Let's see. Samsung. I think it was this one. Okay, here we go. This one coming to us from BBC News. And it has to do with a chip shortage. Samsung warns of a serious imbalance. And this is affecting everything from video game consoles, obviously, to to cars, to computers, phones, tablets, any electronics, anything that is slightly a computer is having to deal with this same issue. This is why you're seeing places like, Nvidia with the graphics cards actually re-releasing older models of graphics cards because the demand is so high and it's so impossible to actually meet it. So let's get into the meat of this. And they said that, let's see, there we go. Okay. They said that Samsung, the world's biggest computer chip manufacturer, was warned of a serious imbalance in the semiconductor industry as global shortages cause disruption, saying that it may also have to skip the launch of the Galaxy Note phone. And this is to streamline its lineup. Part of this, they're obviously picking the what I assume to be one of the weakest selling of their phones and tablet offering. But at the same time, I'm sure that if they had all the parts ready to go, they would totally, still do their thing. But with that being said, there's growing fears market shortages could slow economic recovery from the coronavirus. EU, US, and Chinese governments are seeking to boost production. This is why you saw that executive action by Biden a couple of weeks ago, looking to start a committee to start the formation of a venue that maybe could happen possibly. Essentially a way to start manufacturing their own semiconductors that does not involve the traditional supply chains, because the supply chains have been disrupted. There you go. To quote, once again, there is a serious imbalance in supply and demand of chips in the IT sector globally. And he said that during a shareholder meeting by Samsung. It is hard to say the shortage issue has been solved 100%. The semiconductor shortage began last year when the pandemic hit. Suffering from poor sales, car manufacturers cut their orders from Chinese factories making computer chips. In response, the chip supply from factories was transferred to other sectors that had high demands. And unable to retrieve canceled orders when demand for cars grew, Volkswagen, Honda, Toyota, and General Motors all had to reduce production. So obviously the car industry is going to be the hardest hit. Again, the pandemic just wreaking havoc on the supply chain. Meanwhile, technology sales boomed. People stayed at home. People bought more Xbox, PlayStation consoles. They bought more phones, tablets, devices that they could work from home, productivity, and gaming otherwise. They say that it will take some time before investment translates to more supply. This means that shortages will continue for several months, possibly even into 2022. Some of the long-term projections. Now, with that being said, the release of Samsung Galaxy Note smartphone may now be delayed until 2022, saying that it may be difficult to release. And of course, another popular model, the Samsung Galaxy S21, was launched in January. and it could it could be a burden to unveil 2 flagship models in a year. There you go. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap that up there. But yeah, when everything's chugging along, everything's fine. It's very easy to think that, there's really no issues. But even just a small hiccup like, canceling demand would then raise the demand. And that's a very strange correlation you can have there. But here we are. Okay, let's see. Our next article we can talk about is going to be okay, article number 4. How about we talk about PlayStation? Hey, we already started talking about PlayStation. The new PlayStation VR controllers, and you really need to look at these things. They're up on the video portion, but yeah, they're very I would say they're futuristic looking. They're kind of they wrap around your entire hand, but they don't actually touch your hand. You slip them inside, and I'm sure that these things are packed full of sensors and more. The author of the article is joking about the brass knuckle adapters because hey, they look like gloves. In a way. So, 1 month after officially announcing a new generation of PlayStation VR hardware for the PlayStation 5, Sony today revealed additional details of the new handheld controllers designed to work with the upcoming unit. And I really do hope that these things are compatible with any any virtual reality gear, because they look pretty high quality. So, as previously announced, the new controllers integrate some of the unique features of the DualSense controllers that PlayStation 5 sports. That includes adaptive triggers that can apply variable tension depending on the in-game situation. And, this means that PlayStation and Sony are putting in technology and just giving the ability for the video game manufacturers to take advantage of it. So there's a difference between back in the day when you pulled the trigger, it made contact inside the controller, and it was either contact on, contact off, and it was, that's really all it was. Just like actuating a button on your keyboard, a keystroke is a keystroke. It doesn't matter if you strike it softly or firmly. Same thing. But this is changing it up so that you can actually have, slow, medium tension, like a half trigger pull, full trigger pull. That could be useful for, so many different video game situations. Now, they say that the controllers also feature haptic feedback, which is great. And that tech seems positioned to go behind the generalized rumbling of earlier controllers to make every sensation in the game world feel more impactful, textured, and nuanced. Which, having haptic feedback in virtual reality, super important. It's not just waving your hand around and you hit something with with a stick. You want that rumble in your hand to at least feel like, hey, there was actually something physically there. And that's super important. Let's see. So the new PlayStation VR controllers also mirrors features found in other virtual reality consoles, including the orb shape created by the hand circling tracking rig, which is what I was talking about. Your hand kind of slips into them. The new controller comes with finger detection for the thumb, index, and middle finger when they rest on the appropriate parts of the controller. No button press is necessary. The grip button on the inner edge of the handheld controller can be accessed by the middle finger to pick up in-game objects, and Sony also promises the controller is well-balanced and comfortable in tests with range of hand sizes. Looking at them, maybe Andre the Giant, but overall, these things are very, very large. Most people should be able to, use them. So all that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and move on. One last announcement from Sony was that they confirmed new controllers will be tracked by the VR headset, suggesting that users won't need the PlayStation 5 HD camera or any other external sensors to make use of the hand tracking. So there you have it. The new hand trackers, they look really slick, really good. Yeah, can't wait to use them. Look very, very nice. Okay, story number 5. Our next story. Let's go ahead and move over to... You know what? Let's talk about this one in Australia, which just makes you scratch your head. You know, sometimes people try to apply technology where it's just not needed. And I feel like this is definitely one of those. So Australia, sex consent app proposal sparks a backlash, which you can imagine. Australians have derided a decision by New South Wales Police Commissioner that an app could be used to register sexual consent, saying on Thursday, the sheriff championed the idea of an app where people could digitally record their agreement to meet up. He said that the technology could be used to establish positive consent, but many people have criticized the proposal as short-sighted and potentially open to abuse. Concerns have also been raised about whether it could be used for state surveillance. And, you know, anytime any proposal about, you know, kind of personal details comes out, you know, just the other day, we talked about that story where Google had the idea to track you while sleeping using their radar sensor in their, you know, kind of home device. This question will always persist, you know, kind of regardless of who does it. But still, concerns have been raised about whether it could be used for state surveillance. In recent weeks, Australians have reignited a national discussion about sexual assault, abuse, and harassment on women. And on Monday, tens of thousands of people around the nation marched in protest. There you go. Actually slipped by me. My updates to the Australian, you know, kind of news feed is pretty disrupted, but still, the New South Wales Police, in introducing the app idea on Thursday, said it was aimed at normalizing the act of seeking explicit consent, and saying that you may have, you know, someone in your family who you think is too challenging, but this app protects everybody. There you go. Now, he said that the need to prove explicit consent was a consistent problem in assault court cases, and that an app's record could help achieve better legal outcomes for victims. He added that the idea had been raised with the New South Wales government. Less than 10% of the near 15,000 sexual assault cases by the police last year resulted in charges. Which again is a weird statistic to throw out because, you know, not every case should result in charges. Not like that should, you know, that 10% should be 100%. Always confused why, you know, maybe 10% is appropriate. Who knows? Still, saying that it needs to be positive consent. How do we do this in this day and age? One option is with technology. That's what they told a local newspaper. But women's advocates have pointed out that the app's use in reality could pose many problems. They said a consent record could be superseded simply if someone changed their mind, or it could be faked. Very true. Obviously, if you're trying to introduce a particular app with a ledger, you know, hey, that ledger could be changed very simply. Female lawmakers also criticized the app as inadequate compared to efforts to improve sexual assault laws for victims and improve awareness. This really does, which we've seen in a lot of cases, this shifts the burden from lawmakers and law enforcement, and instead says, hey, this is something that, you know, kind of individuals have to deal with. This is, you know, this is not something that the judicial system has to rule on. It's up to individuals to work around our system instead of our system adapting to a changing environment. One statement was, we need consent law reform. We need holistic education. We need to stop men feeling they're entitled to whatever they want. We don't need an app. That's what Greens MP Jenny Long said. A similar app by a private company was released in Denmark earlier this year after the country criminalized sex without explicit consent. I had no idea. but it was widely panned by the public and the press. So the idea to, go at it again, not the best idea. So obviously, thousands of young women have detailed their experience with this whole thing, especially during their schooling years, with many noting that they weren't certain of what actually constituted assault. So, they have problems, and those problems cannot be fixed with a simple app. We sometimes think of technology as something that can address any problem as long as we hold our mind to it, but, legislation really does need to be at the forefront, even of technology. It's, we see that here in the United States as well. So we're going to go ahead and move on from that one, but that one definitely caught my attention. Very strange, very strange. Although, I'm seeing other headlines here from, the French, Spain, Denmark, as I said, Australia. This whole issue of, kind of consent is definitely getting global attention. So, hey, that's a good thing. Okay, now moving on. How about something a little bit more high tech? And we don't say this often, but this story comes out of the United Arab Emirates. There you go. They want to use drones. And, well, drones in the Middle East have been a very heated discussion. But this one is going to be used for what could be good. And, hey, that's definitely an improvement. United Arab Emirates to test cloud-busting drones to boost rainfall. Very interesting. So obviously, places in the Middle East have very, very little rainfall. Hey, it's a desert. Most people know that, but some people don't know that you can actually change that. Changing weather is actually something humans have been doing for some time. And cloud seeding is a pretty common practice. And, we've looked into other areas. So I guess UAE is looking to test this yet again. Now, drones fly into clouds, giving them an electric shock to cajole them into producing rain, and they're about to be tested in the UAE. The country already uses cloud seeding technology, dropping salt to encourage precipitation. But the average rainfall in this place is just 100 millimeters per year, and they want more. One could imagine. In 2017, the government provided $15 million for 9 different rain-enhancing projects. Scientists at the University of Reading are heading one of them. And they have a nice image of, Dubai. It's pretty crazy. All those dunes, all that sand, all that, all that useless land. The project aims to change the balance of electrical charge on cloud droplets, explained Professor Martin Ambam, who worked on the project, saying that the water table is sinking drastically, and they want to rectify this with more rainfall. The country does, though, have plenty of clouds, so the plan is to persuade the water droplets to merge and stick together like dry hair to a comb. Then, when it meets static electricity. When the drops merge and are big enough, they fall as rain. So essentially what they're saying is there's plenty of moisture, it's just up there trapped and dispersed, and all they have to do is essentially get them to gather a little bit more effectively. And it's not stealing, if you can imagine that, it's not stealing weather from anywhere else. It's simply, affecting the moisture that is already in those areas. Now, they say that the director of the rain enhancement research in Dubai, they say that they equipped with a payload of electric charge emission instruments and customized sensors. These drones will fly at low altitudes and deliver an electrical charge to air molecules, which should encourage precipitation. The study will then be evaluated with hopes for a larger aircraft to, do more. Just like every other test, you see if it's good, and then if it's good, you do it again. But the next time, preferably much bigger. There you go. So I One other plan that I had heard happening in this area was this idea that they would build a mountain, like just outside the city. And much like the Rockies, with the United States, all that, all that moisture, all that hot, moist air going to the mountains, of course, being lifted up because of the topology of the ground, the mountains actually cause precipitation. They cause the moisture to gather and, the airflow to change, and it actually rains more near mountains. This seems like a little bit better of a proposal instead of building a literal mountain outside their city. It's crazy how much money they have to throw at this issue, but yeah, they're looking into every possibility to increase rainfall. Okay, very cool. I wonder if it will work, and I'm looking forward to kind of future advances in that. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on here. And you know what? Oh, and this article, let's see, reopen, close. There we go. This article is a bit related to what I did recently, and I haven't shared this on the show yet. But behind the scenes, I did something that I would not have considered just a few months ago, but I went ahead, bit the bullet, and did it. And I switched from Chrome to Microsoft Edge. I know, Edge. Who would have thought? The fun part is I didn't really switch to anything that new. Under the hood, very famously, Microsoft gave up ambitions of building out their own browser and instead adopted the Chromium, kind of skeleton behind the scenes. So even though I stopped using Chrome, I'm still using a form of Chromium by using Edge. But it's much better in terms of performance. It's very, very good at pretty much everything I was asking Chrome to do. And it doesn't actually log down my PC, because obviously for work, I could be a bit more tidy about it, but at times I'll have, 15, 30, 45 tabs open in the background. And ever since Chrome stopped supporting the Great Suspender for what they say was malware, ever since they stopped supporting the Great Suspender, Chrome was eating up more and more of my system resources. So to fix that, I found the best way to do that was to switch to Edge. And almost overnight, I saw in some cases, looking at my CPU usage right now, I would be at like 40 to 42%, and I'm currently sitting at about 35 to 37%. It's a pretty noticeable, 5-6% difference on the CPU load. And then of course for the dedicated memory, it's using like half of what it used to. Chrome has become so bloated, and no amount of fresh installs, restarts, or anything like that would solve it. It really does feel like Chrome is getting all these new features and options, and they aren't taking anything out. They aren't streamlining. They're not streamlining. They are not optimizing their choices very well. So yeah, little fun fact. Behind the scenes, I have switched over to Microsoft Edge, and I got to say, overall, all of the add-on support that I use, all the plugin support that I use, they're all supported. And everything else was super simple to migrate. You can ask the new browser. There we go. You can ask the new browser to actually import everything that you had on one browser and import it to another. Very, very simple to do. Just takes like a couple of seconds, couple of clicks. And yeah, I recommend it. I highly recommend it. But with that being said, one option that I guess Chrome has now that no one else does, because Chrome just introduced it, live captioning to any web audio source. And Google may have a little bit of an advantage here because they do have they have YouTube. They have so much audio to parse through, to look through, and they're going to have more samples to test. And probably their captions are going to be one of the best on the internet. So yeah. Chrome brings live captioning to any web audio source. So not just YouTube videos this time, but including, podcasts. So even Computer America, if you really needed to. Google is officially bringing its live caption technology to any website with a new version of Chrome. The feature, which debuted on Pixel phones and should be available on most Android 10 Plus devices, lets you easily apply Google's speech-to-text technology to any audio source, making it simple to get closed captioning on audio that's lacking in accessibility department. Starting today, Google is beginning to roll out the feature to Chrome 89 and up on desktop PCs, which, by the way, if you've ever wanted to try a good text-to-speech program, I would say Chrome Documents, Chrome Google Documents, Google Docs are very, very good with their text-to-speech. So give that a try. You may find your productivity go up. But I guess they're using the exact same thing, except instead of using your microphone as an input for the speech to text, instead the speech will be any audio source from inside its own browser. Some Google services like YouTube and Google Meet have machine-generated captions for some time now, so it's not very useful there, but it's a nice band-aid for everything else. This means podcasts, Twitch streams, social media sites, and other video chat services, streaming sites, and more are covered. There you go. The feature even tries to caption music. It's not perfect, but hey, for clearly spoken words, it works pretty well. Google says that all this is happening locally on your device and won't end up on the internet for anyone out there who has privacy concerns. Although, you're listening to material on on your computer. There we go. On your computer. It looks like Chrome dropped about 130 megabytes of speech data into two new folders called SODA, which is the Speech on Device API, and the SODA Language Pack. Right now, the feature only works for English, and the only language pack is English US. But it looks like there are multiple language support that will arrive eventually. So there you go. Very, very good. I'm definitely a fan of these, seemingly obvious and simple improvements. But for people who unfortunately can't hear or need to listen with the volume completely off, these kinds of features really do make all the difference. So, I start off the story by saying I switched away from Chrome and I really prefer, Microsoft Edge. But at the same time, you can see that Chrome is still trying to innovate and bring new services to their browser. So you can't fault them for that. Now, let's talk about something that will probably not make any difference whatsoever. And I'm talking about robocalls. They're an issue. They're working on it, so they've said, but the FCC enforces its largest fine ever. Let's see if they can actually collect. And their largest fine ever, $225 million against telemarketers who made about 1 billion robocalls. These fines get more outrageous all the time. And, don't get me wrong, 1 billion... a billion fake or auto-generated calls are actually awful. Like, that's 1 billion people who had to waste time and energy and just, it didn't have to happen. But, hey, I doubt this company behind them, is worth anywhere near 225 million, let alone if they're even in the country to, they say they were in the country, but if they're even able to be held liable, and I highly doubt that. By the way, all this happened in Texas. So if you're in Texas, or obviously getting calls from Texas, and got a spoof call trying to sell you Aetna, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and other health insurance companies, yeah, these guys were the ones that were doing it. They say that John Spiller and Jacob Mears, who did business under the names Rising Eagle and J Squared Telecom, faced the fine proposed in June 2020 by the FCC for massive spamming of spoofed robocalls in the US in 2019. Spoof calls have a false caller ID that makes them appear from a nearby location. This is why, maybe if you were fresh to the internet or your phone, you saw, oh, hey, someone with almost my exact phone number. I should totally pick that up. No, don't. It's a spoofer, and they're going to, do a fake number that is relatively close to you. Now, consumers would be asked if they were interested in affordable health insurance, and if they press 3 to get an agent, the consumer would be transferred to a call center unaffiliated with any of those insurers. One of the robocaller's largest clients, Health Advisors of America, was sued in 2019 by the Missouri Attorney General for telemarketing violations. So, clearly a way to drive demand towards an unrelated business, which, some would call unethical, such as the Attorney General. There you go. Spiller told the U.S. telecom industry, a group authorized by the FCC to investigate robocalls, that he knowingly called consumers on the do not call list. Further proof that the do not call list do not matter, but I digress. He told the group that his firm made millions of calls per day and he was using spoof numbers. And by the way, 1 billion calls in a year means that he would have had to been making close to, just under or just over 3 million phone calls a day. That is a lot of wasted time, energy, and effort for those 3 million affected. And by the way, again, this is just one group, one business, 3 million calls a day. This problem can really get out of hand very quickly. In addition to enforcing the agency's largest ever fine, the FCC also issued several cease and desist orders against other robocallers and created a robocall response team, saying that unwanted robocallers are not only a nuisance, but they pose a serious risk to consumers who can inadvertently share sensitive personal information to bad actors and their malicious schemes. Saying that the FCC chairwoman said, "I'm proud to unveil my first set of actions to put a renewed focus on the FCC on what they can do to combat the issue that we receive the most complaints about." The cease and desist letters went to 6 firms charged with making or facilitating robocalls. And by the way, they have one from Canada, one from Florida, one from the UK. And they said that each one of these goes to different services and plans, which are so strange. More than likely, they don't even have direct ties with the business that they're calling for. I think that's what makes them so devious, is that they seem like they're coming from businesses that you may have already done business with. Take this one, for instance, here, saying that they were making scam calls for COVID-19 vaccines, Social Security, IRS, and electrical utilities, and Apple Inc. All very unrelated businesses, but still, yeah. Anyways, Canada, Florida, UK, New Jersey, and Canada as well. So they say that the last one, by the way, is suspected of transmitting robocalls about fictional Apple iCloud account breaches, social security scams, and credit card fraud. All of them are things that you want to obviously act on immediately, try to resolve, and unfortunately you are dealing with someone who does not actually represent that service. So, a new robocall response team, a group of 51 members, will coordinate anti-robocalling efforts, and today's cease and desist letter should serve as a warning to other entities that the FCC that believe that the FCC has turned a blind eye to this issue. We certainly haven't, and we're coming for you. That again, coming from the FCC. Overall, higher fines. It's great that they imposed $225 million. Overall, like the amount of money that they've actually been able to collect after imposing all these fines, generally, like I want to say, one case over 10 years, the agency took in, it was like it was $5,600, like, period. It was less than, $6,000, just a couple $1,000, and they imposed like $1 billion worth of fines for doing robocalls and scams and all that kind of thing. The people who actually get caught doing this are themselves so far removed from any kind of money. Like, there may not even be any money to be had here. It's a very, very lucrative business because it costs almost nothing to set up, and it tricks a lot of people. It has a very far reach. Again, 3 million calls a day is a lot of chances. Like, that's a lot of chances to hit the jackpot and find someone who is just unfortunately not, not doing it right. So there you go. We're going to go ahead and transition here out of this story, but robocalls, the true answer is probably going to be in that handshaking, that idea of getting rid of spoofing, spamming, and at least being able to flag these things for what they really are. The end of spoofing is going to be a big one, and can't wait for it. It's going to be great. Okay, so let's see. So this one relates a little bit. Speaking of all the spam calls, check this out. This is not just spam calls, but others as well. Miss Mariella Moon saying that more than $4.2 billion were lost by cyber victims in 2020, saying that that's a $700 million increase than there was in 2019. Now, obviously, this has a lot to do with people working online, spending more time at home, in quarantine, on their computers. More internet traffic means that, hey, eventually you're going to come across a scam, and there's a possible breach. So, the FBI and their Crime Complaint Center has published its annual report for 2020, and they have a total loss of about $4.2 billion. That's from everyday, ordinary Americans. Not good. That's $700 million more than 2019, and as you expect, the uptick in the number of complaints to the IC3 received in 2020, the organization fielded about just under 800,000 complaints, mostly of the phishing, video phishing. Ladies and gentlemen, this article says vishing with a V, and smishing, which is, SM, like instead of SMS texting, but text phishing, and farming varieties. I've been doing this for long enough that none of those terms are real. But hey, if they want to try to get them to catch on, good for them. Much higher than, so almost 800,000 complaints as opposed to the year before, where they received about just under 500,000. So almost a doubling of complaints. According to the report, about 28,500 complaints related to COVID-19 last year were reported. Bad actors attacked a number of hospitals and medical facilities, and they also targeted unemployment insurance and other avenues around the CARES Act stimulus fund. One of the most common schemes were to dupe people because they were pretending to be government officials and reaching out to victims via emails, phone calls, and other social media to gather personal information and ask them for money. One of the ways I can only assume that they did this was, they found their email, sent out massive amounts of emails, calls, spam, and said, hey, have you not gotten your stimulus yet? Click this link and, enter your personal information and we'll see where you're at. Little things like that could have real issues for people going forward. They also mentioned that there's a rise in business email compromise scams where criminals hack or spoof emails of company executives, then request for wire payments to be sent to fraudulent locations. These business email compromise scam victims reported losses of $1.8 billion, and this is a huge chunk of that $4.2 billion total. You can imagine working from home, not being able to pop into the office next door and say, hey, can you verify that this is you and you need this money, but instead just being like, oh yeah, okay, we'll get that done, and sending the money off to the wrong place. I'm sure it's happened more than you think. But tech support fraud continues to be a growing problem with losses over just under $150 million. And they say that that's a 171% increase than the losses from 2019. And most victims are 60 years or over. Ransomware reports contributed $29.1 million to the total amount of losses, which were over 3 times the amount as they were for 2019. Craziness. And yeah, you can catch more there, but scams, obviously, as FBI have highlighted, continue to be on the rise, and it's only going to get worse as things get more digital. You gotta be safe, and you gotta monitor what's out there. So our let's see, we have time for one or two more. Our next article, we'll cover this real quick. It's very related, although I think this one's from the UK, so not quite the same area, but this has to do with a Bitcoin ad misleading pensioners. So check this one out. This is an ad for CoinFloor, saying that use CoinFloor to help you build your Bitcoin savings portfolio. We offer all these different ways, and they said that the full page spread contained a photograph of a CoinFloor customer with a personal testimony of how she has invested part of her pension into Bitcoin via the platform, saying today there is no point keeping it in the bank. The interest rates are insulting. That is why when I receive my pension, I put a third of it into gold, a third of it into silver, and the remainder into Bitcoin. Seems like a bad idea. Now, they say to me, Bitcoin is digital gold, and it has allowed me to take steps to secure cash I already have. There you go. The ASA upheld 2 complaints submitted claiming that it was misleading because it had failed to make clear the risk associated with the Bitcoin investment, and socially irresponsible because it had suggested that purchasing Bitcoin was a good or secure way to invest one's savings or pension. Obviously, CoinFloor makes a little bit of money for each transaction happening through their I keep wanting to say facility, through their platform. They keep a little bit of money. So the more people who buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, do anything or any kind of transaction using their service, they're going to make money. So that's where they're coming from. To claim that Bitcoin is as good as gold, don't get me wrong, Bitcoin has been on a historic rally. Currently, let's see, the price of Bitcoin currently is $57,000. And over like the last month, you had to go down to 45,000, and it's gone all the way up to 61, 62,000. It's it's crazy. It's probably better than gold, I think a lot of people would say. Now, to say that consistently, just 1 year ago, it was $5,400 a Bitcoin. Now it is 10 times that price. 10 times. That's 1,000% increase. But of course, that's looking at it today. Go back to 2017. 2017 when that whole thing happened, 20,000 straight down to just 3,000. A lot of people lost a lot of money trying to do this the first time. It's it's really just not good. Now, they failed to make clear that these investments are not safe, they're not recommended, it is not as steady as gold, and it's just crazy. In the small font, in its defense, CoinFloor said that the ad represented the perspective of a customer rather than the company's own view. And it noted the disclaimer, which it claimed to have given significant prominence, had mentioned that investing in cryptocurrency involved significant risk and could result in losses. However, the regulator said that the small font size and low position of the text meant that the details had not been displayed clearly enough. So it was a legitimate ad by a legitimate company to legitimate potential customers, but it was designed in a way to be sort of misleading. So it was taken down. So there you have it. Let's see, this one also from the UK, although, let's see, who is this one? Very strange. I don't think we have time to get into the net neutrality case. A lot of these are pretty complicated. Let's talk about, Chinese tycoons. Why not? The Chinese tech scene is a very strange one. Just like the US tech scene, tech founders can become billionaires. Of course, the few that we know of have been very successful. And I'm sure that there are thousands upon thousands that were not as successful, but still. When you look at your Bill Gates, when you look at your Elon Musk, when you look at your Jeff Bezos, when you look at your, enter the dozens and dozens of other billionaires out there, yeah, they made their money in tech. And not many leave very quickly, and when they do leave, it's usually for philanthropic reasons. This one, though, is a little bit different because the Chinese tech scene, well, he abruptly quits the tech giant that he founded. And this is Colin Wang, is China's 7th richest person and is worth more than $50 billion for his stake in the online firm. And by the way, this is the Chinese e-commerce group Pinduoduo, and he stepped down unexpectedly as chairman. His exit comes as Pinduoduo overtook rival tech giants JD.com and Alibaba with 788 million annual active buyers on its platform last year. This is why we talk about the two different kinds of internet. There's the internet that the world uses, and then there's the internet that China uses. Other than the Great Firewall, there are services that, again, this one platform that is seen as kind of the up-and-comer has 788 million active buyers. That is insane, the amount of, kind of transactions that they handle. But his company has been criticized for its work culture following the death of 2 employees recently. And they mentioned that Mr. Wang will explore new long-term opportunities, the company said. It released figures stating that it is now China's largest e-commerce firm. Strange that he would leave so quickly. Shares, so the shares, they actually dropped a number, and dropped 8% following the news, wiping about $4 billion off of his net worth. But still, even if it went from 50 to 46, I don't think he's going to be too upset. The former Google employee was briefly ranked the second richest person in China last year, following a surge in sales at his e-commerce business. They overtook Jack Ma's Alibaba in annual shopper count for the first time ever. Again, that's 788 million, being just a bit more than Alibaba with 779 million. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap that one up there. We really don't have all that much time left, but still, Pinduoduo has repeatedly sought more funding, raising roughly $9 billion from investors since its Wall Street stock market launch in 2018. The online grocery market has become highly competitive in China as more shoppers buy daily meal ingredients from their phone following the pandemic. But there has been widespread online criticism of the intense work culture across China's booming tech industry. And yeah, I would say the tech industry in general really does need to rein in. China aside, I mean, China's going to go through the same growing pains that people are still fighting for in Silicon Valley and other places around, really around the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have here for today. I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. And yeah, we will be sure to catch you next time. Thank you for tuning into the Computer America Show. And until then, we'll have, I think, computer and technology news tomorrow. We'll double check that. But yeah, until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.